Welcome to Turf Talk with Matt,
And Casey.
and today we're going to be talking to you about Round 1 Fertilizer 2022. We are getting ready to start Round 1 here shortly, and I know you guys probably have a ton of questions that might be coming up with the weather fluctuations and when should we actually start. So we're going to address all those questions for you here right now. And hopefully we can put your mind at ease and let you know that the process is in place for a certain specific reason. We also have a couple of new services that we're offering, so we want to talk about that as well to really streamline the process of having one provider at your house for anything lawn care, pest control related. So speaking of that, round one.
Round one.
What do we do in round one? What's the purpose of round one?
Well, round one's going to start ideally Monday. We're definitely going to be on smaller properties. I don't know that the soil is going to be dry enough for us to get the steel green machine out and get on some of the larger properties. But we're definitely going to be out with our smaller properties, getting round one pre-emergent down.
And why would we be concerned about the steel green? What's that? What is that?
The steel green machine is a much heavier machine. It's designed to operate on larger properties because it can carry a lot more weight than a push spreader.
Mm-hmm.
You're carrying your granule fertilizer and your liquid herbicides all in one package. It'll cover a wide area in a much shorter time than, say, walking with a hose reel and then going back over it with a push spreader.
So we have two options that we can put on people's property. We have this machine that weighs, 900 pounds?
Yeah, about 1,000 pounds.
About 1,000 pounds. And then we have a hose reel. And so those two, obviously, have much different weight on your yard. Mm-hmm. And with the yards being fairly soggy right now, we're going to test it out. And if we can't get on people's properties, we will let you know. We will over communicate that. You will probably get an email that says, hey, we're coming out tomorrow. Yeah, we're going to come out, but if we can't get on your lawn safely without causing damage, we will also communicate that to you. Absolutely. And let you know that you will be rescheduled. But our second crew with the hose reel shouldn't have any problems. We should be able to get out.
Basically, he's on foot, so
right.
No issues.
Awesome. So pre-emergent. So we talk about pre-emergents. What are pre-emergents? Is it going to stop my dandelions?
No, pre-emergents are not designed to necessarily deal with broadleaf weeds. Now, your pre-emergent might stop some broadleaf weeds from germinating. It's not designed for that. That's a side effect. Pre-emergents are designed to stop your crabgrass from germinating and coming up and taking over areas of the lawn. Crabgrass likes those thin areas, the patchy stuff, anywhere that's compacted. So we're going to put that pre-emergent down. We're going to do a blanket application of pre-emergent in round one, a blanket application of pre-emergent in round two, and we're going to stop that crabgrass hopefully dead in its tracks.
So why do we do pre-emergent in round one. Why do we need a pre-emergent in round two? Is that overkill?
It's not. So the window for crabgrass is very wide. As soon as the soil temperature hits 55 degrees, crabgrass seeds are going to start germinating. Some of those seeds are going to germinate right away. Some of them are going to just sit there in the soil profile, and they're going to hang out, and they're going to wait. As soon as conditions are right for them to germinate, they're going to germinate.
Gotcha. And so that's the reason we do 2 rounds of pre-emergent, because in Indiana, the weather goes like this. Mm-hmm. And we can have freezes and thaws, and then we can have 60, 70 degrees the next day and snow the next. So as that temperature starts to raise and lower, we don't know when that crabgrass is really going to emerge. So we have to get out ahead of the curve to put pre-emergents down so we can hit all those days. And that's why we do the first 2 rounds of the season. I'm not exactly sure the date that round 2 ends on, but it's going to be later into the season, and it'll have plenty of time for those 2 rounds to prevent pretty much all the crabgrass. We shouldn't see any crabgrass at all this year with our 2. I mean, you might get some here and there, especially if you go and say we put the pre-emergent down and they don't listen to our recommendations and say they aerate or they scratch up the soil to put seed down, even though spring is the worst time to seed of all times. So if you do that, that could lead to another problem. You can get crabgrass there. So anytime that you disturb the soil after we put that pre-emergent down, there's a good chance that you could get crabgrass.
That's right. The way that pre-emergent works, Matt, it builds a chemical barrier in the top inch or so of the soil profile. As that seed germinates, it's going to hit that barrier, and it's going to send a chemical signal to that little sprout that says, don't grow here. So it's just going to turn around and go the other way. If you disturb that soil and you break that pre-emergent, that seed's going to find that hole, and it's going to pop through.
And that's another reason here at Green's Lawn Care, we are 100% committed to quality service and giving you the best absolute product. And that is why we will always refuse to aerate and seed in the spring.
Absolutely.
Because that is not what's right for your yard. Yes, you're not going to get the instant gratification that you may want. If you want to go that route, we would recommend sodding, here into the fall if you really want that instant gratification. But the time to really seed is going to be the fall. And we know that the birds are going to be chirping soon, flowers are going to start blooming, and you're going to want to get out of these winter gloomy days, and you're going to want to turn around your yard and get seed down any bare patch, but that is the wrong thing to do. Please
Absolutely.
heed our recommendations and do not scratch up the surface and put any seed down in the springtime. It's just not the right time.
That's a two-part dilemma, Matt. Number one, the pre-emergent that we put down is going to negate any seed that you put down unless you are tilling that soil. Number two, the soil or the seed that you're putting down now is going to germinate, and it's going to be very young and immature as we're going into summer stresses. So it's not going to survive. You're going to have an 80% fail rate on those new seeds. Do you like throwing away 80% of your money? I don't.
No, absolutely not. And we are unique in that. I mean, you can call any of our main competitors and they will aerate and seed your yard in the spring.
Absolutely.
Because they care more about the money that they are going to make off that revenue and that service than they care about having you as a long-term customer and being happy. So we tell you that there is a process. We will follow that process, and we're not going to veer off of it because we know ultimately what is right for your property. We've been doing this for a long, long time, and you just have to really trust us in all these.
Absolutely, Matt.
So the next thing, let's talk about the weather that's coming up this coming week, because we're planning on starting, I think it's February 21st. I want to say is the first day. Is
Absolutely.
it Monday?
Yeah, this Monday.
We're shooting to start this day. So we have some interesting weather coming next week. Can you kind of talk to us about that?
Yeah, the weather's going to be everywhere, Matt. We're going to see some nice days where it's going to be sunny. It's going to be above 50 degrees. You're going to want to be out in the lawn, maybe doing something. And then we're going to have some days where we're down in the teens at night and we're just above freezing during the day. So what we're going to see is just a wild gambit of weather. What that's not going to do is prevent us from getting out and getting some work done. And what it's not going to do, it's not going to prevent that pre-emergent from working.
Well, we're also we potentially have a chance for snow again.
A little bit, yeah.
So if we put pre-emergent out now, is it too early? If we're going to get all this weather and potentially snow on top of the pre-emergent, is it going to deem it ineffective or?
It's not. Hence the term pre-emergent. We want to get that pre-emergent down before the soil hits that 55-degree mark for crabgrass to germinate. If we're hitting it after that 55-degree mark, we're too late. Some of that seed is already going to be germinating. Once it germinates, then we have to come back with a post-emergent, which is harsher on the grass surrounding that crabgrass plant. They're more costly. They're not as effective because once the crabgrass hits a certain stage, it just becomes resistant to herbicides. So we put that pre-emergent down. It's much more effective. It's much more cost-effective. Keeps your price down. And it's going to do a much better job.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but pre-emergent needs to be watered in, right?
It absolutely does, Matt.
So that's the other really awesome thing. If it does happen to snow after or rain after we put this pre-emergent down, is we know from being in the lawn care industry for as many years as we have been, a lot of customers are never going to water, no matter what you tell them. They're not going to water, which is okay. It's just going to take a lot longer to get the yard that you want if you're not watering.
Correct.
However, pre-emergents are one of those rounds that have to be watered in.
Absolutely.
Later in the season, if you don't water some of those in, it's not going to be a big killer. But pre-emergent has to be watered in, and a lot of people's saving grace is the snow that's going to come. And once that turns from snow and turns into water as it warms up, it's going to water that pre-emergent in. Or the spring rains, that helps out a lot with pre-emergent because it has to be water activated.
Right.
So there's a huge benefit for some of this weather that's coming and us being able to get out in the yard this week. So the other thing, we do see this sometimes on Facebook, is that we will announce that we're starting, and somebody on Facebook that doesn't really know what they're talking about says, "Can you believe they're starting so early? Like, it's useless. The pre-emergent only lasts this many days." Well, that's why we do 2 rounds of pre-emergent, because we have to get ahead of the curve.
Absolutely.
Anything else you want to add to round 1?
No, Matt, I think that pretty much covers round 1.
Oh, well, we have hard to control weeds.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. How could I forget the wild violets and the ground ivy? They are the bane of my existence.
That's right. You mean Creeping Charlie, right?
6 of one, half a dozen of the other. What we're going to do in round 1, herbicide-wise, we're using a product this year called T-Zone. It's a little change from what we used last year. Last year we used a product called Cool Power. Both are very good on the wild violet and the creeping Charlie or ground ivy. T-Zone, I feel, is a much better product. It has a little bit different mode of action. It's going to penetrate into those leaves a little better, and we're going to see a much better control of those weeds. Now, I don't want you to get your hopes up and think that the first time I come out and I treat, that the lawn's going to be wild violet or creeping Charlie free. It's not going to happen. We'll get a good control on them. What we don't get this year in the spring, we'll try and follow up in the fall as well with that T-Zone, and we'll try and take care of it then. If your yard has a lot of wild violets or a lot of creeping Charlie or ground ivy, it could take a couple of seasons before we actually see total control.
And if you don't get control in round 1, why do we have to wait until the fall?
It's a great question, Matt. The products that control those hard to control weeds are ester based. What happens around 75 and 80 degrees is that product can volatilize. That's where a liquid turns directly into a gas, and it can move off target. That moving off target can cause damage or death to your surrounding landscape, your neighbor's plants, crops, things like that. So we have to be very careful, very mindful of the environment and the people around us when we're using those products. We don't want to use them in a situation where the temperature could create volatilization and allow that product to move off target.
Gotcha. So that's why if in round 1 we can apply this, and then round 6, when the temperatures are starting to go back down in the fall and the temperatures are below that 75, 80 degree mark, we're able to put that back out again. And like you said, it could take a couple seasons. If you have heavy coverage of both, that means that there's cracks and grooves in the lawn that are going to form, and you definitely need to have your yard aerated and seeded to thicken that yard up to help also push out some of those weeds that will be coming. So that pretty much covers everything for the fertilization side for round 1.
Yes, it does.
But what about pest control? We've added one new service, and we've changed them. We changed the timing on some of them. So can you talk to us? What's the new service that we have?
Sure. This year, Matt, we're excited to offer mosquito control. We've listened to our customers. We've had a lot of requests for this, and we've decided to go ahead and move forward. We're going to do 8 rounds of mosquito control, where our technician will come out. He's going to fog your surrounding foliage, your bushes, your trees, your shrubs, everywhere that the mosquito would nest during the day. He's going to hit it with a product that has a 30-day residual. That means once he treats, you're protected for 30 days. In 30 days, he's going to come back, give or take, depending on how it falls in the schedule. He's going to come back and he's going to fog you again, make sure that you're taken care of. We're going to do that 8 times during this year, so that you have a lasting coverage from spring to fall. The entire time that the mosquito is going to be active and alive, we're going to make sure that you're protected.
Right. So we start that in March and end in October.
Correct.
And so mosquitoes like to hatch at a certain temperature, so that's why we picked that 8-month window is when we're going to do treatments. Coming out once a month, hit everything. If you do have breakthrough, like obviously mosquitoes can move, but if you have a lot of breakthrough, give us a call. With this service, we will come back out. Just like for Lawncare, if you have breakthrough, give us a call. We'll come back out. We'll treat you again at no extra cost.
Absolutely.
That's part of our commitment to you guys, and your commitment to us is we want to make sure it's right.
And one of the reasons we do that, Matt, is we know that the mosquito is only going to travel about 20 yards. That's about 60 feet in its daily travels. We know that if we're spraying your foliage, You're probably not going to see that much mosquito movement. Might have one or two slip in from the neighbors. Probably not. Your little patio or your outside enjoyment area is probably going to be within that 60-foot buffer zone. That's why we're very proud to give it that 100% guarantee.
Absolutely. And along with that, we changed our 2 pest controls that we had from last year. Now our pet lover program is still the same.
Still the same.
Still 3 treatments. One thing that we are getting though is people are asking us like, I don't have pets, I don't need this treatment. Well, that's not quite the case. This treatment we do brand it as pet lover program, but it's, do you have kids that play in the yard? Do you spend time in the lawn? Do you have a bonfire pit that you walk across the yard to get to? Do you have a dog that you let out, back and forth? It kills the fleas and the ticks and everything else that are surface feeders that could cause harm to you, your family, even your enjoyment of being on the yard. So that's what the Pet Lover program is. It's a flea and tick treatment. Totally safe for kids to play after it's dried, dogs to play after it's dried. Some of the same things that they put on like some of the collars on dogs, or you put the little drips on the back of the dog's neck to prevent the fleas from growing on them. We use some of that same stuff on the lawn, so it's totally safe for them. But then the next thing is our perimeter pest control.
Big changes.
We hate bugs coming into our house.
Absolutely.
We hate seeing bugs. Specifically, our significant others hate the bugs, and they scream and they yell, "Go get that spider!" And that's what our perimeter pest control treats. So what are the main changes that came to our perimeter pest control?
So we had a lot of customers that noticed that because of the wide window of treatment, they were having some breakthrough. What we've done to adjust and make sure that does not happen is we've doubled up on the number of treatments. We're going to come out 8 times, again, March through October, and do that perimeter pest control for your home. We're going to double that protection and lessen the chance that you're going to see any kind of breakthrough, again, with the 100% guarantee.
And so that's a great service that you can bundle the mosquitoes with the perimeter pest control. We do both of those services monthly, March through October, and we can do both of those at the same time at your house. And one thing that we did is if you sign up for 2 or more pest control treatments, we will give you 10% off the entire package. So the whole year of pest control, for the mosquitoes, we'll give you 10% off the entire year of that. We'll give you 10% off the entire year of perimeter pest control. So if you bundle 2 or more services, it could be mosquitoes, perimeter pest control, or what was the other? Pet Lover program. If you hire 2 or more of those, you'll get 10% off everything.
That's exciting stuff.
Yeah. So those are the big things that have come for pest control and flea and tick, and the lawn care side.
Yep.
Is there anything else that we need to make sure that they know?
Stumped me.
Okay, that's it for round one's Turf Talk. We are excited to be back on the lawn starting next week. We're super excited that the temperatures are coming back up and we can enjoy the summer again.
Spring's almost here.
Our guys are chomping at the bit. They've been training all week. I mean, extensive training in here in our conference room, in the warehouse. They even went to a conference yesterday. So they're pumped up. They're ready to go. They're ready to get on their lawns, talk to you guys, answer any questions that you guys may have. So that's it. Turf Talk Round 1, 2022.
See you on the lawn.